subscribe channel, like and comment video.
An unlikely friendship. In the heart of the Whispering Woods, where ancient oak trees stretched their gnarled branches toward the sky and streams babbled secrets to the moss-covered stones, there lived a young bear named Bruno. Bruno was not like other bears in the forest. While his brothers and sisters were content to spend their days fishing in the river and sleeping in cozy dens, Bruno yearned for adventure and friendship beyond his own kind. Bruno had a coat of rich, chocolate-brown fur that gleamed in the dappled sunlight, and eyes that sparkled with curiosity and warmth. He was strong and brave, yet gentle in ways that surprised those who met him. His mother often told him that he had been born with a wanderer's heart, always looking beyond the next hill, always wondering what lay around the next bend in the forest path. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves drifted down from the trees like nature's confetti, Bruno was exploring a part of the forest he had never visited before. The air was sweet with the scent of wild berries and pine, and his paws crunched softly on the carpet of fallen leaves. As he rounded a massive boulder covered in emerald moss, he heard a sound that made him stop in his tracks. "Help! Somebody, please help!" The voice was high-pitched and frightened. Bruno's ears perked up, and without hesitation, he bounded toward the sound. There, at the edge of a steep ravine, he found a small red fox struggling to climb back up the rocky slope. The fox's russet fur was matted with dirt, and one of her paws was caught between two stones. "Hold on!" Bruno called out. "I'm coming to help you." The fox looked up, and for a moment, fear flashed in her amber eyes. Bears and foxes were not natural friends in the forest, but something in Bruno's voice made her pause. Bruno carefully descended the slope, his powerful claws finding purchase on the rocks. When he reached the fox, he gently moved the stones aside, freeing her trapped paw. Then, with remarkable tenderness for such a large creature, he helped her climb back to safety. "Thank you," the fox said breathlessly, once they were both on solid ground. "My name is Fiona. I was chasing a rabbit and didn't watch where I was going." "I'm Bruno," the bear replied with a warm smile. "Are you hurt?" Fiona tested her paw gingerly. "Just a little sore, but I'll be fine thanks to you." She studied Bruno with curious eyes. "You're not like most bears I've encountered." Bruno chuckled. "So I've been told." "Would you like to walk with me for a while? I can make sure you get home safely." As they walked through the forest together, Bruno and Fiona discovered they had much in common. Both loved to explore, both had quick minds and kind hearts, and both felt somewhat out of place among their own kind. Fiona was clever and swift, with a talent for solving problems and a sharp wit that made Bruno laugh. By the time they reached Fiona's den near a hollow oak tree, they had become fast friends. "Will you come back tomorrow?" Fiona asked hopefully. "Of course," Bruno promised. "Perhaps we could explore the singing meadows together." "I've heard the wildflowers. They're spectacular this time of year." And so began a friendship that would change both their lives forever. Chapter 2, A Third Companion. Several weeks passed, and Bruno and Fiona became inseparable. They explored every corner of the Whispering Woods together, sharing stories and dreams beneath the stars. Fiona taught Bruno how to be light on his feet and how to solve problems with cleverness rather than strength. Bruno showed Fiona that courage came in many forms and that true friendship meant always standing by those you cared about. One chilly morning, as frost painted delicate patterns on the leaves and their breath formed small clouds in the air, Bruno and Fiona were walking along the northern edge of the forest when they heard a peculiar sound. It was a rhythmic tapping, like someone knocking on wood, followed by frustrated chirping. "What is that?" Bruno wondered aloud. Fiona's ears twitched. "Let's investigate." They followed the sound to a clearing where a large pine tree stood. At the base of the tree sat a young raven with glossy black feathers that shimmered with hints of blue and purple in the morning light. The bird was pecking at something on the ground with increasing frustration. "Excuse me," Fiona called out politely. "Do you need help?" The raven looked up, and they saw that one of his wings was tangled in a length of abandoned fishing line that had been carelessly left in the forest. The more he struggled, the tighter the line became. "I've been stuck here since yesterday," the raven said miserably. "I'm Cornelius, and I seem to have gotten myself into quite a predicament." Bruno approached slowly so as not to frighten the bird. "We'll help you," Cornelius. Just try to stay still. With Fiona's nimble paws and sharp teeth, along with Bruno's careful strength, they managed to cut through the fishing line without harming Cornelius's wing. The raven stretched his wings gratefully, testing his freedom. "I cannot thank you enough," Cornelius said in a voice that was surprisingly eloquent for a bird. "That line would have been my doom if not for your kindness." "We're happy to help," Bruno said. "Are you new to this part of the forest?" Cornelius ruffled his feathers. "I am indeed. I've traveled from far away, seeking new places to explore and new things to learn. Ravens are curious creatures, and I've always wanted to see more of the world than just the cliffs where I was born." Fiona's eyes lit up. "Then you're just like us. Bruno and I love exploring too. Would you like to join us on our adventures?" Cornelius cocked his head thoughtfully. "I would be honored. Besides, it seems I owe you a debt of gratitude, and traveling with friends is far more pleasant than traveling alone." From that day forward, Bruno, Fiona, and Cornelius became an unlikely trio of adventurers. Cornelius brought a new perspective to their group, for he could see things from above and had traveled far enough to know many stories and secrets of the wider world. His intelligence and vast knowledge complemented Fiona's cunning and Bruno's strength perfectly. Chapter 3: The Challenge of Crystal Falls. As autumn deepened and the forest prepared for winter's arrival, the three friends heard rumors of a legendary place deep in the mountains that bordered the Whispering Woods. The elderly owl who lived in the tallest tree spoke of Crystal Falls, a magnificent waterfall that was said to freeze in winter into a sculpture of breathtaking beauty, with ice formations that sparkled like diamonds in the sunlight. They say, the owl had told them in his whispery voice, that those who journey to Crystal Falls and witness its winter transformation are blessed with courage for all their days. Bruno's eyes had shone with excitement at the tale. "We should go." "It sounds amazing." "It's quite dangerous," the owl warned. "The path through the mountains is treacherous, especially as winter approaches. Many have tried to reach Crystal Falls, but few have succeeded." But the three friends were not deterred. After careful preparation and gathering supplies, they set out on what would become their greatest adventure yet. The journey began well enough. They traveled through familiar parts of the forest, following a stream that would eventually lead them to the mountains. Cornelius flew ahead, scouting the path and warning them of obstacles. Fiona used her keen nose to find the easiest routes, and Bruno's strength helped them overcome physical challenges like fallen trees and steep climbs. As they climbed higher, the air grew colder and the terrain more difficult. Snow began to fall, at first in gentle flurries, then more heavily. The pine trees gave way to bare rock, and the wind howled through narrow passes like a living thing. "Are you sure we should continue?" Fiona asked, her voice barely audible over the wind. "The weather is getting worse." Bruno looked ahead at the towering peaks, then back at his friends. He could see the concern in Fiona's eyes and noticed how Cornelius was struggling to fly against the powerful gusts of wind. "We've come so far," Bruno said. "But you're right to be worried. Let's find shelter and wait for the storm to pass." "There's no shame in being smart about our safety." They found a cave carved into the mountainside, deep enough to protect them from the wind and snow. Inside, they huddled together for warmth, with Bruno's thick fur helping to keep them all comfortable. Cornelius perched on a rock near the cave entrance, keeping watch. As the storm raged outside, the three friends talked about their journey and their friendship. They realized that the adventure itself was less important than the fact that they were experiencing it together. "I never had friends like you before," Bruno admitted. "My family loves me, but they never understood my need to explore." "Same here," Fiona said softly. "Other foxes thought I was strange for wanting to learn about the world instead of just focusing on survival." Cornelius ruffled his feathers. "In my flock, I was considered odd for asking too many questions. But with you two, I can be exactly who I am." Chapter 4: The Beauty of Crystal Falls. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind a world transformed by snow and ice. Everything sparkled in the sunlight, and the air was crisp and clean. The three friends emerged from the cave renewed in spirit and ready to complete their journey. The final approach to Crystal Falls tested them in ways they hadn't expected. The path became so narrow that Bruno had to walk very carefully, with Fiona riding on his back and Cornelius guiding them from above. There were moments when they questioned whether they could continue, but each time doubt arose, they encouraged one another. "You can do this, Bruno," Fiona would say when the bear's paws slipped on icy rocks. "We're almost there," Cornelius would call out when the path seemed impossible. "Together we're stronger than any challenge," Bruno would remind them when their spirits flagged. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of climbing, they heard it, the thunderous roar of falling water. They rounded one last bend in the mountain path, and there before them, in all its glory, stood Crystal Falls. The sight took their breath away. The waterfall was indeed beginning to freeze, creating formations of ice that caught the sunlight and threw it back in rainbow prisms. Mist rose from where the water met the pool below, creating an ethereal atmosphere that made the whole scene seem magical. Icicles hung like crystal chandeliers, and the frozen spray created sculptures that looked like they had been crafted by the hands of master artists. The three friends stood together in silent awe, taking in the magnificent sight. They had done it. They had overcome every obstacle and reached their goal, not because any one of them was strong or clever or wise enough alone, but because they had worked together and supported one another every step of the way. "It's even more beautiful than I imagined," Bruno whispered. "Look how the ice catches the light," Fiona breathed. "It's like 1,000 stars have fallen to earth." Cornelius spread his wings and soared out over the falls, his black feathers brilliant against the white ice and blue sky. "This is a moment I will remember forever." They spent hours at Crystal Falls, exploring the area, playing in the snow, and simply enjoying being together in such a spectacular place. They discovered hidden grottos behind the ice where rainbows danced on the walls. They found a warm spring nearby where steam rose in the cold air. They even met a family of mountain goats who shared stories of the falls and welcomed the three unusual friends. Chapter 5, The Journey Home. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that reflected off the ice in breathtaking beauty, the three friends knew it was time to begin their journey home. But they were not the same adventurers who had started this quest. They had been tested, had faced their fears, and had discovered that true courage came not from being fearless, but from facing challenges with friends by your side. The return journey was easier in some ways, for they knew the path now and had gained confidence from their success. But it was also more meaningful, for they took their time, savoring every moment together and reflecting on what they had learned. "I used to think adventures were about reaching destinations," Bruno said as they descended the mountain on the second day of their return trip. "But I've realized that the real adventure is the journey itself, and who you share it with." Fiona nodded wisely. "And I've learned that being clever isn't just about outsmarting problems. Sometimes the smartest thing is to ask for help and work together. I've discovered," Cornelius added from his perch on Bruno's shoulder, "that the greatest stories aren't the ones you hear from others, but the ones you live yourself, especially when you live them with true friends." As they made their way back through the whispering woods, word of their successful journey spread. Other animals came to hear their tale, and many were inspired by the story of a bear, a fox, and a raven who had become the closest of friends despite their differences. The three adventurers told their story around campfires and in forest clearings, always emphasizing the same lessons, that friendship knows no boundaries, that differences make us stronger when we work together, and that courage grows when it's shared. Chapter 6, New Beginnings. Winter came to the Whispering Woods in full force, blanketing everything in snow and ice. But the three friends didn't hibernate or hide away. Instead, they spent their time helping other animals prepare for the harsh season, sharing the supplies they had gathered and using their unique skills to make life easier for everyone. Bruno used his strength to clear paths through the snow and help smaller animals reach their food stores. Fiona used her cleverness to find new sources of food when traditional ones became scarce. Cornelius flew far and wide, keeping everyone informed about weather patterns and where resources could be found. Their friendship inspired others in the forest. Animals who had never spoken to one another before began forming their own unlikely friendships. A family of rabbits befriended a wise old badger. A group of squirrels began sharing their knowledge with the mice. The entire forest became a more connected, supportive community. One evening, as the three friends sat together watching the northern lights dance across the winter sky, they reflected on how much had changed since that autumn day when Bruno had rescued Fiona from the ravine. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met?" Fiona asked thoughtfully. Bruno considered the question. "I think I would still be wandering the forest alone, strong but lonely, looking for something I couldn't name. And I would still be surviving but not truly living," Fiona added. "Running from danger but never running toward anything meaningful." Cornelius spread his wings against the starlit sky. "I would still be searching for a place to belong, flying from one place to another but never finding home." "But we did meet," Bruno said with a smile, "and we found something more valuable than any treasure or magical place. We found each other." Epilogue. Many seasons passed, and the legend of Bruno the bear, Fiona the fox, and Cornelius the raven grew beyond the Whispering Woods. Young animals grew up hearing stories of their adventures and the power of their friendship. The three friends continued to explore new places, face new challenges, and help others wherever they went. They returned to Crystal Falls every winter, watching it transform with the seasons and remembering the journey that had brought them even closer together. Each time they visited, they brought new friends with them, sharing the beauty of that special place and passing on the lessons they had learned. Bruno eventually became known as the Guardian of the Forest, not through any official title, but because others recognized his wisdom and kindness. Fiona became an advisor to animals of all kinds, her clever solutions helping to resolve conflicts and solve problems throughout the woodland realm. Cornelius became the forest's chief messenger and storyteller, ensuring that important news traveled quickly and that the stories of courage and friendship were never forgotten. But no matter how respected they became or how many others sought their counsel, the three friends always made time for one another. They understood that their friendship was the foundation of everything good they had accomplished, and they nurtured it as carefully as a gardener tends the most precious flowers. And so, in the Whispering Woods and beyond, the tale of a bear, a fox, and a raven continues to inspire all who hear it, reminding everyone that the greatest adventures are those we share with true friends, and that together, there is no challenge too great to overcome. The end.